This is the Love Language Podcast with Abdul Ghaffar. Love Language. Conversations about love that ask more of you. Hello everyone, and welcome to this amazing and lovely podcast. My name is Abdul Ghaffar Arikewuyo. I'd like to say thank you to everyone who has been anticipating the start of this podcast. A huge shout out to everyone who has sent messages and everyone who has been looking forward to the program. We have finally started. This is Love Language, and I'm your host Abdul Ghaffar Arikewuyo. This is where we will be having real conversation, intriguing conversations, and amazing conversations that would change your love life and love stories. So let's get started real quick. Today I will be talking to you about something very, very important, and it's titled Before You Love Anyone. In this episode, I will be talking to you about the relationship you have with yourself, things you need to understand about yourself, and quite a number of other intriguing and deep conversations that would help us understand how we truly are, how we feel, and who we are when it comes to love and relationships. So let me begin with something that may feel uncomfortable but very important. Many people do not enter relationships searching for love in its truest sense, and that's a fact that you need to understand. A lot of people enter relationships searching for relief. It could be about relief from loneliness, relief from self-doubt, relief from that quiet, present fear that they sit with themselves for too long, something painful that might surface. So think about how we often say, I just want to be loved. I just want to feel loved. I want someone to love me. Think about that for a moment, and how rarely we admit that what we might actually mean is, I don't want to feel this emptiness on my own. I just need someone to share this level or this feeling of emptiness with me. So before we go any further, I want you to pause with me. Wherever you're listening from, slow down for a moment. Let your body settle into the space it occupies and breathe slowly, deliberately, and answer this question honestly without trying to sound self-aware or insightful. When was the last time you sat alone with yourself and did not feel the urge to distract, escape, or be chosen? When? For many people, the pursuit of intimacy is not about sharing a full life. It's about avoiding the discomfort of inhabiting one. And here is the truth. We rarely say out loud, even to ourselves, you cannot build a healthy relationship on top of self-abandonment. That's one real fact we need to understand. If being alone feels unbearable, you might tolerate being diminished together. If your own thoughts feel threatening, you might outsource your worth to someone. So, if silence unsettles you, you might cling to anyone who makes it despair, even temporarily. So, this episode is not about romance to start with. It's about what comes before it, and that's why we need to treat this one very carefully. It's about the relationship you have with yourself when no one is choosing you. Because you need to choose yourself first. One of my friends used to often say, everyone is greedy and everyone needs to learn to be greedy. It's not about being stingy or not about wanting to share. What that friend of mine really meant was that you need to take care of yourself first. Be aware of yourself first before anyone else. Because if you don't know who you are, then there is no way you can expect anyone to understand and know who you truly are. So, let me genuinely ask you, gently and directly, who are you when there is no one to impress, no one to perform for, no one to hold you? Because that's where it actually begins. That's where we need to really focus on. Let me tell you a story. I'll call her Nora. Nora had been in relationships for months of her life. No chaotic ones, no abusive ones, just emotionally uneven ones. She described herself as understanding. I hope you get that. Her friends called her low maintenance. Her partners called her easy to be with. But inside, Nora felt increasingly invincible. When something hurt her, she softened it before speaking. When she needed reassurance, she told herself she was asking for too much. When she felt lonely, she blamed herself for being needy. One relationship, she waited for months for emotional reciprocity that never arrived. In another, she cried for emotional weight for two people while convincing herself that love required patience. What kept repeating was not the man, it was her silence. Nora eventually asked herself a question that changed everything. Why am I so afraid of being difficult? And the answer was not about romance. Growing up, Nora learned that love was conditional. You were valued and you were agreeable. You were tolerated when you were quiet. Emotional expression felt very risky. So as an adult, she mastered adaptation. She did not choose partners who hurt her deliberately. She chose partners who felt familiar. So what I ask you to do is ask yourself, in your relationships, who does the most of emotional adjusting? Who swallows disappointments to keep peace? At what point did love become something you endured rather than experienced? Nora did not need a new partner. She needed a new relationship with herself. And that's why things continued to go on the way it went. So let's slowly slow things down now and look carefully at what is really happening beneath the surface. Psychologically, your first relationship is not romantic, it's internal. I hope you get that. Your first relationship is not romantic, it's internal. It's the relationship you form with your own emotions, your needs, your sense of worth, long before anyone else enters the picture. This internal relationship quietly shapes what you tolerate, what you pursue, and what you call L-O-V-E, love. If you learned early in life that your feelings were inconvenient, you may grow into an adult who minimizes them without even realizing it. You learn to soften your needs, to rationalize disappointment, to explain away neglect. You become skilled at endurance, highly skilled for that matter, not because you want to, but because it once kept you safe. If affection was inconsistent, you may associate love with effort rather than ease. You may believe connection must be earned through patience, understanding, emotional labor, and what have you. So calm may feel unfamiliar and stability may feel undeserved. And if approval had to be earned, you may equate love with performance. You may feel most valued when you are useful, accommodating, or emotionally restrained. This is where patterns emerge. You do not repeat relationship dynamics because you lack intelligence or self-awareness. You repeat them because your nervous systems ask what it recognizes. Familiarity feels safer than uncertainty, even when familiarity is painful. Attachment theory, one of the theories that I work on very seriously, and I find this story very important and interesting in relationships. It explains clearly we gravitate towards emotional environments that mirror our early childhood experiences, not because they were healthy, but because they feel known. Those experiences of love, care, support, and what have you that we have had all the while we were growing. So ask yourself honestly, what emotional environment feels normal to me? Calm or uncertainty? What do I interpret as love? Consistency or intensity? Many people mistake anxiety for passion. They confuse emotional labor with devotion. Love that requires you to despair is not intimacy, it's survival. Before you love anyone, you must ask, how do I treat myself when I feel unwanted? Do I respond with compassion or with punishment? Your answer matters because these answers will shape your life and shape your relationships. Let me talk to you about one very difficult question. It's a difficult question that requires soft answers. And today's difficult question is this: how do I know if I am ready for love? I know a lot of people talk about this very many times, especially the young growing adults. When you ask them, when do you want to get into a relationship, or are you ready for your relationship? A lot of young adults say, I'm not ready. And then you ask them, when would you be ready? Many do not know how to answer this question. So I put it to you today. How do you know if you are ready for love? It's a question many people ask, like I said earlier, but few pause long enough to answer honestly. We often confuse readiness with perfection. We feel like everything must be set. We assume we must heal everything, resolve every wound, and silence every fear before we are allowed to love. That is not how human connection works. Readiness is not about having no wounds. It's about knowing how you respond to them. You are ready for love when you can sit with discomfort without immediately reaching for validation. When loneliness does not send you rushing towards attachment. When you can notice anxiety without letting it distance your choices. You are ready for love when you can express needs without apologizing for existing. When asking for care does not feel like an inconvenience. When you no longer dilute your truth to remain acceptable. And perhaps most importantly, you're ready for love when you stop expecting a partner to rescue you from yourself. When connection becomes something you share, not something you depend on to feel whole. So ask yourself slowly and honestly, what does staying in this relationship cost me emotionally? What does living require me to face internally? Sometimes what feels like love is actually avoidance of grief, of solitude, of self-examination. So sometimes staying feels easier than confronting what you have been postponing within yourself. Love, in its healthiest form, should not drain you of yourself. It should expand you. It should steady you. It should allow you grow, not despair. I have a letter someone once sent to me on one of my former programs, and I'd like to share this with you. I'd like to keep the person anonymous, and it says, I kept quiet because I was afraid if I spoke honestly, my partner would leave. I confused peace with silence and patience with neglect. I loved him by shrinking myself. I see now that I was asking him to give me what I refused to give myself. So, sit with that. There are letters we never send because they would change things. But unspoken truths do not despair. They become patterns. So if you could write one letter to a partner, to a parent, to yourself, what would you say? As we close today, I want to leave you with this affirmation. Not as something to repeat quickly, but as something to let settle. You are not difficult for having needs. You are not demanding for wanting reciprocity. You are not broken for longing to be met, seen, and understood. Needing connection does not make you weak. Wanting mutual effort does not make you excessive. Desiring emotional presence does not mean you are asking for too much. It means you're human. So, here is your reflection for the week. Sit with it slowly. Where in your life are you wanting to be chosen instead of choosing yourself? Where have you been postponing your own clarity in the hope that someone else will finally decide your worth? Where have you been editing your truth or remaining acceptable agreeable, or convenient. And here is your challenge. This week, speak one honest truth without cushioning it to protect rejection. One truth that you have been rehearsing quietly but have not voiced. Not to provoke conflict, but to honor yourself. Choose clarity over comfort. Choose self-respect over temporary peace. Choose presence over performance. Before you love anyone, you must learn to stay present with yourself, especially when it feels uncomfortable. That relationship becomes the blueprint for every other one you will build. Until next time, take care of your inner world. Be patient with your growth, and above all, be gentle with your heart. Thank you for listening to the Love Language Podcast with Abdul Ghaffar. For more inquiries, questions, or if you'd like to have a personal conversation, please send an email to coolgaffimedia@gmail.com. That's COOLGAFFI media@gmail.com. Love Language. Conversations about love that ask more of you.